Looks like Xbox is bringing back Tony Hawk, which to me is extremely exciting as it's one of my favorite franchises of all times. Played that all the way back when they first launched. Always loved them. We got some more information on the new technology that Xbox announced yesterday. I think there's going to be a lot of good stuff that could come out of this if it's not just corporate speak. So we'll talk about that, specifically the game preservation, an indie game that people were excited for. There were issues with Xbox previously. Looks like those are all gone. We don't really know what happened, but they say here that the issues have been fixed. Bunch of information from Shuhei Yoshida on PlayStation, on The Last of Us Online, that was supposed to come out with The Last of Us 2. That one got canceled. He played it. He liked it. Talks a little bit about as well the Bloodborne and bringing that back and working with From Software, as well as live service games that are being made at PlayStation. So interesting stuff there. Information on Palworld and information about Niantic, the people behind Pokemon Go. They're looking to sell. So this is a big deal if you are into Pokemon Go, mobile game, and that type of stuff. But we will jump into all of this. But before we do, if you like daily gaming news, daily gaming content, make sure to hit the subscribe. I see a lot of you have been. I've been seeing the comments. This is why I'm saying this on every video. People are saying, I've watched your video every day. I haven't subscribed. Thanks for the reminders. So that's why I'm putting that out there, because it's weird. People watch it every day, aren't subscribed, and it's just something that you forget to do. But if that's one of you watching right now, consider hitting the subscribe button to help the channel grow. But let's jump over here to a story that's extremely exciting for me, as I am a big fan of this series. And this is Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. It got leaked here by pro skateboarder Tyshawn Jones that they are working on another Tony Hawk game, a remaster of some sort. We've heard rumors about this in the past, that they were going to be bringing back Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4 remastered, which I would think would be an absolutely great idea, because they did it with the first two. And if you haven't played the remaster / remake of those, go play them. They're extremely fun. So you would think those did well. Why not bring back 3 and 4? And apparently they were in the works and then they weren't. But it looks like it potentially is happening here, or at least something's happening in the Tony Hawk Pro Skater universe. And this is great news. So this is according to Industry Insider. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4 remaster will be released after the Xbox Summer Showcase in June 2025. I believe this is Ecstasies that did post this. And recently we also learned through Pro Skater Tyshawn Jones that a new remaster of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater series is in the works. And he's been in conversations with Activision again, and saying that it is insanely exciting that this is happening. And then Ecstasies is saying here that Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3+4 remaster may be coming, and it may be shadow dropping at the Summer Showcase or sometime along that timeline. It says, Ecstasies posted a new video in which he confirmed that Jones' information is accurate and that THPS 3+4 remaster is in the works, and that the remaster is internally referred to as Project Chicago at Microsoft and will be ready to be released by June 2025. And he states that the remaster will be shadow dropped after the Xbox Summer Showcase presentation, which that would be crazy if they shadow dropped it right there. I think a lot of people would be extremely excited about that. This is great because it is Xbox going back into the older Activision IPs and bringing them back out, which is something I had my fingers crossed when this deal did go through, that they would be jumping back in with the older titles, bringing them back, remasters, remakes, giving upgrades for the current generation of consoles, and drop those into Xbox Game Pass. And it looks like they will be. This will be one of those potentially dropped here, shadow dropped at the Summer Showcase in June. So very, very exciting because it's not far away. And I absolutely loved the first two. So I'm sure this one will be just as good, if not better. Maybe they'll add some more to it and everything, because the last one released on the previous generation, then it got an upgrade for the current gen. And this one will be developed here for the Xbox Series XS and PlayStation 5, you would assume, but I also wouldn't be surprised if it did release on the PS4 and the Xbox One. But excited about that. Hopefully it's true. Hopefully it isn't just a rumor that doesn't come to fruition. All right, yesterday I made a video about this. I think there's a lot of interesting stuff here, and it has to do with Muse, which is going to be this new AI generative tool that Xbox has announced that they are going to be using for a couple of things. The thing that I'm actually interested in, and I think could be great if it really does work in a way that allows people to play their games across all of the different devices and preserve games. They don't really explain how that's going to work, so you do have to be skeptical of it. Hopefully it's not just corpo speak, to reduce their fears about game preservation in the future and potentially not having consoles after the next generation. But that is an interesting thing that I think this AI stuff could be used for. And this is what they said. They say, today, countless classic games tied to aging hardware are no longer playable by most people. This was Fatima Kadar, the Microsoft corporate vice president of gaming AI. And they say here, thanks to this breakthrough, we are exploring the potential for Muse to take older back catalog games from our studios and optimize them for any device. Now, we don't know exactly what this means, but they do say here, we believe this could radically change how we preserve and experience classic games in the future and make them accessible to more players. To imagine that beloved games lost to time and hardware advancement could one day be played on any screen with Xbox is an exciting possibility for us. And again, that's, to me right now, very surface level discussion about this, but the concept and what they want to do with game preservation, I think ends up being a good thing if they deliver on it, and it's not just something to reduce people's fears about game preservation going forward. So I hope it does work. I hope whatever it means, that it is that older games, going back to the OG Xbox or whatever, can now be used, Xbox cloud gaming on your phone, or be used on your PC where you can play it right through the Xbox app on your console. If that is the future of what Xbox is trying to do, I think that is extremely exciting, to have everything just in one place from every single generation of Xbox. Then you never really have to worry about that game preservation stuff. You never have to worry about these games going away if this technology can make that actually work. There's all these issues when it comes to game preservation, licensing. People wonder why certain games don't come back. There's so many different things. So I don't think it will ever be 100%. However, it is absolutely an issue. It's not just an issue for Xbox. It's an issue for every platform out there, PlayStation, Nintendo, PC even. But PC, you have more leeway because you have emulators and things like that where you can get ROMs and play older games. But it's definitely an issue for the consoles. And the way that the industry will tackle this going forward is going to be huge. It looks like at this point, Xbox is leading the way. In fact, they were leading the way at the beginning of this generation when they had the Series X and S backwards compatibility stuff. You've seen PlayStation kind of do it as well with the PS4. I would love to see them expand that out to PS3 and PS2 and PS1. But definitely something that concerns me, and at the same time has me excited if they find ways to allow us to access our entire catalog from the beginning of Xbox. I hope this is something more than just some corporate speak to get people excited. All right, let's talk about Berserk Boy. This one is an odd one. This is an indie game. They uploaded a trailer to ID at Xbox, and then they made some comments about how Xbox doesn't like them, and people thought that this game would never be coming to Xbox. Now it seems like their issues have been worked out. It's a cool looking game. I'm not going to lie. This is one that I would be interested in eventually playing. It's a side-scrolling pixel art action game, and it reminds me a little bit of like Mega Man in terms of the art style and everything. But it wasn't coming to Xbox for some reason. And somebody said here, PS5 only, we have the game on Switch, but not on PS4, Xbox One and Series X and S, ? Someone responds to that and says, apparently Xbox don't like him. Whatever that means, even though the trailer was uploaded to ID at Xbox YouTube channel 3 years ago. And we don't know what that means. It's just a statement. We don't know actually what happened. And Berserk Boy does respond and says, we're working with Xbox. There's no bad blood. Xbox doesn't love me was about an issue that has now been resolved. So whatever the issue is, it's now resolved. It will be coming to Xbox. So if you were looking forward to Berserk Boy, you don't have to worry about not hitting the platform. I always find it interesting when those statements get put out and then we don't have any reasoning behind it. We've heard other issues, like what the Notria, the issue was Xbox just hadn't responded, and that got worked out pretty fast, and the game did release on the platform. So who knows what was going on here with Berserk Boy. All right, yesterday we talked about Marvel Rivals and the just weird thing that was happening with layoffs at the Seattle-based part of the company, the Seattle-based studio that has worked on this game. You would think with a game that's so wildly successful, there wouldn't have been layoffs after the launch. But it was all US-based employees. And now we do have an update here. NetEase confirms this, and they make a statement as to exactly what is going on. They say, we recently made it the difficult decision to adjust Marvel Rivals development team structure for organizational reasons and to optimize development efficiency for the game. This resulted in a reduction of a design team based in Seattle that is part of a larger global design function in support of Marvel Rivals. We appreciate the hard work and dedication of those affected, and we'll be treating them confidently and respectfully with recognition for their individual contribution. So that is what they said. But again, there isn't very much more to it other than that. You look at that statement, it doesn't tell you anything. It's odd because it's only US based employees. So they're obviously going to be moving more people to China to work on this game, or if they're hiring for those roles in the future, you would assume it will be in China. We also have Daniel Ahmad here, who had some interesting insights. He is the director of research and insights at Nico Partners, and he analyzed the video game market and specifically in Asia and stuff. So he says, worth noting, this round of layoffs only impacts the team in the US, not the core dev team in China. It's part of a broader reconsideration of NetEase's overseas investments and studios. The firm has pulled funding from a number of overseas teams over the past year. It says, to clarify, this doesn't impact the game's operation and the current roadmap is still the plan. NetEase started its reevaluation last year, leading to closures of studios in Japan and the US. The reevaluation is still ongoing, is being undertaken for multiple reasons. It says it's bad look for NetEase to lay off a successful team no matter the reason. However, the previous layoffs or closures included studios where you could argue current performance or lack of results was the issue. Can't make the same argument here, and less than a dozen people is what he is told for the layoff. So it does seem like this has to do with reducing their investment in the United States, and that's why they chose that team to lay it off. It's unfortunate for the team there. It's just a very weird thing because the game, like I said, is just extremely successful. So you would think that people's jobs would be secure, but clearly that is not the case. All right, let's talk Shuhei Yoshida, because he has been telling all about PlayStation. A lot of things have come out from his interviews. It's been very interesting to watch and to listen to. There are a couple of things, pressing things at PlayStation that I think people have questions about. The first one being games as a service, and the second one being From Software and Bloodborne, and bringing back and working with them to bring these games back to PlayStation, to get them remastered and remade and all that stuff. So we'll go over a couple of things. The first one I want to talk about here is the games as a service side of PlayStation. One of the things people believe is that PlayStation was forced to work on games as a service, and then they realized this wasn't the direction they wanted to go, and then they had to cut all of these games. Well, Yoshida does comment on this, and apparently that is not the case. The teams were not forced to work on live service games. So it says here that this is from the Sacred Symbols Plus podcast where he got interviewed, and he says here that first-party studios are not being forced by current CEO Herman Hulse to develop live service games, although the big initiative did in some way push studios to work on this type of game. According to Yoshida-san, when studios see the company has a big initiative, riding on it gives them a better chance to get a project approved and supported. So right there, he's basically saying that there was no force, but you're incentivized to do this, so your games do get greenlit. And the other thing he does comment on is The Last of Us Online, because that was a major live service push that they had that I think would have been relatively successful. So it was kind of odd when they did cancel it. And here's the reason why they canceled it. He says, the idea for The Last of Us Online came from Naughty Dog, and they really wanted to make it. But Bungie explained to them what it takes to make a live service game, and Naughty Dog realized, oops, we can't do that. If we do it, we can't make Intergalactic, the Heretic Prophet. So that was lack of foresight. So two things there. They're not being forced to make these games. And The Last of Us Online, who Yoshida said that he played, I believe, and enjoyed what he played, it was a game that basically got greenlit to be created, and then they thought that they couldn't support it anymore, so they canceled it. That is definitely a lack of foresight. To me, that just screams a management issue and just a complete lack of experience in making any other games at PlayStation. The fact that Bungie had to come in there and say, yeah, this is how you make a live service game. This is how you would support a big multiplayer game. After all that time of development, is just they didn't have the right people in place to go in that direction in the first place. So you would think they wouldn't have even tried it, but they did. Game canceled, and then they move on to the Heretic Prophet game. So depending on what type of games you like, that could be a good decision for you or a bad decision for you. But I think The Last of Us Online would have been good. And you would have thought with a studio like Naughty Dog, a company like Sony, they would have the funds to be able to support two teams there to make both games, and maybe break off a smaller team to work on the single player experience until the games as a service game is launched, and then they move more people over to the single player experience, and then there's other people that are just working on the updates and keeping it running and stuff. But very weird that they canceled that one out of all of them, which a lot of people were very excited for. And I think a lot of people bought The Last of Us 2 with the thought that it would eventually release and they would be able to jump in and play. And then we have this little piece of information that he spills the beans on that has to do with the potential that PlayStation could have had if working with From Software for Demon Souls didn't go as bad as it did go. And they eventually did get back with From Software with Bloodborne, and people are still looking for a current generation upgrade for that game. Who knows when that is going to be coming? But he said some interesting stuff here, specifically here. He says that in terms of Demon Souls and then the sequel, which was Dark Souls, PlayStation wanted to work with them, but they decided to go with Bandai Namco. And he says, From Software was already working on the sequel, but they were so disappointed with how PlayStation treated them. We wanted to work with them again, but they passed on it. And then he also talks here about Bloodborne and saying, we have a huge respect for Miyazaki and we were able to work with them again. Bloodborne is one of the best games. And you see every time that there is any sort of show that's announced by PlayStation, people just want Bloodborne. They want the remake. And they have, I think, a gold mine for a remaster that they just have not done yet. Instead, everything else is getting remastered. So just some interesting info there. He spills the beans a little bit on it, stuff that has been happening at PlayStation. I mean, we talked about it in a previous video as well, where they treated him, I would say, poorly. He doesn't say they treated him poorly, but I guess from an outsider's perspective, it looked like they did when Jim Ryan came in and basically said, you're going to move to the indie side of things or you're going to have to leave the company, really giving him no choice. And he's basically the GOAT there at PlayStation. So anyways, he's retired now. And he is not attached to PlayStation anymore. He's not employed by them. So he's out here just telling everybody what happened, which is very cool to see. I like when this type of stuff does happen. All right, a couple more things here. Palworld is massive and not surprising, but it has surpassed 32 million players in its first year. It was first released January 19th, 2024. And they announced here on X that the game has surpassed 32 million players across Steam, the Xbox Series S and X, the Xbox One, and the PlayStation 5. Pocket Pair just absolutely blew up after this game. They even opened up their own publishing arm to help other games reach the success that Palworld has reached. So good for them. Cool to see that game has taken off. And finally, we have this. Niantic Inc. is looking to make a massive deal for their company. They looks like they're trying to sell it here to Saudi Arabia controlled Scopely for $3.5 billion. And this would include Pokemon Go, the wildly successful mobile game. And this announcement could be coming in the next coming week. So the industry is absolutely changing. You're seeing major investments from countries like Saudi Arabia, countries like China. I mean, we just talked about how China with NetEase is pulling out some of their studios from other parts of the world, the US specifically. I wonder what this means for these games. If will these be good or bad? Who knows? But it is a completely changing market right now. It's becoming far more global, and there will be some more deals like this going forward as these companies looking to sell. And you have huge companies here like Scopely Inc. that are willing to make these deals. $3.5 billion, all because I think Pokemon Go really took off to basically being just a global phenomenon. But I'll end the video there, guys. If you did enjoy this video, hit that thumbs up. If you're new here, hit that subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.